Hello, my name is Tiago. I am a fashion designer. I have 31 years old. Um, I recently graduated Drexel University. But at first, even though right now I'm a fashion designer, I started my career as a art historian. Um, I'm Brazilian, and back to Brazil, I first graduated in art history. Since the beginning, I wanted to do fashion design, but in Brazil it's really expensive, and it's not like here that you kind of have loans, and even though it's expensive as well, you have a way to pay them off. In Brazil, if you don't have the money, you just don't do it. And then I went to a public university, did first art history, and also uh, back to that time, I saw one interview from one of the biggest fashion designers in Brazil. His name is Alexander Rascovich. And then in that interview, he told that if you wanted to do fashion design, maybe you should do an art career first. And then I did that. And I was working with art history. I also was doing fine art. I did a mix of them. So I was working with paintings. I do watercolors. I love watercolors. I like to control the water over the paper. And then I came here to US back to 2019. And at first I moved to Orlando. I didn't get very along with Orlando because I don't drive and I don't feel that they had like a cultural life. And then I started to look around like big cities. As for example, back to Rio, I was able to just go around by public transportation, and that's why I came here to Philly. I was looking around a few cities, and I discovered that here was like a nice niche to be um, next to New York, also having a back public transportation. So it was nice to move around without a car if I don't need it. And then I did that in 2020. And in the same year, I applied to Drexel for the master's degree and I passed. And it was funny because a lot of people after like asked me if I was like at Drexel and I was here because of Drexel, but actually I was here before Drexel. And my master's there was during 3 years. And before there, I never sewed in my life. I just like to do drawings. Like since I was a teenager, I was always drawing. And that I feel like helped me a lot, especially like with the process of getting in the university. And over there, I have very nice opportunities. For example, in my second year, I did my internship with Christian Siriano in New York. So even before that, I wanted to work already with evening wear, but after doing my internship with him, I feel that it was like a confirmation of it. And then I graduated this year and I present my final collection, like the graduation collection. And as a master's, we needed to do 5 pieces. And my collection was called Deep Paradise. I was mostly inspired by those creepy animals in the bottom of the sea because I wanted to do something like more abstract, and I feel that I need a abstract inspiration from something material. So I was looking for those animals to see and like to feel how strange they are, and also how they can like symbolize something that we kind of don't understand. It's not like familiar to us. They look like ETs. So then I really like that aesthetic. Like it's something that it's recognizable but not familiar. It's kind of you kind of feel fear of it. So I was really inspired on that, and I started to make the drawings of the dresses. And I knew at first that I was doing evening wear, but then the process was really interesting because I got the picture of them and just I was just drawing like the abstract fat of that. I wasn't relating to clothes at first, so I basically had the big picture, like the abstract shapes, and then after that, started to put in the shape of dresses or tops and skirts and etc. And then I did 5 drawings. I was working like with a few alterations and etc. And then I decided that I wanted to do just silks and organzas. I love working with soft wovens. So that can be silks, organzas, crepes. The thing is, here in the US, it's really expensive. The last dress, it took like 20 yards of double silk. This particular fabric is really expensive here. And then I did a quote in New York. It's too much. And I was like, okay, let's travel. And then I traveled to Thailand to get my fabrics. And I traveled to Thailand twice to get those fabrics because at first I went there. There's like a specific mall in Bangkok that I'm obsessed with. They sell amazing silks. And I kind of took a few silks that I liked, but I was still in the process of making the collection. And then after everything was done, I discovered that I didn't have enough silk and that I came back to there. And then I bring 80 pounds of silk, and I was really happy about that. It was a lot to take in, but finally it worked. The dress was made. Um, and then I present the collection in June. It was really interesting. I got to know a lot of people there. I won 2 awards for that collection. I won Best Evening Wear, and I also won the Best Show, which was really nice. So my brand, it started over there, thinking about luxury wear, evening wear, and it's really something that I love to do. And it takes like a lot of handwork to do. It's not like you kind of there's like process of making clothes. So like one really famous here, it's let's say the ready to wear, and then we do tech packs and send overseas to be done. But the pieces that I like to do, I like that atelier process of like making the patterns, um, making samples, and doing a lot of things by hand. So this is something that I wanted to continue following. It's something also that it was made during my internship. So I learned a lot of that process, like an atelier base, and it's something that I really like to continue exploring. Uh, Now, after graduation, I'm working in a few other pieces. I'm looking for extend that collection, the Deep Paradise collection, which at first I just had 5 looks. Now I'm trying to expand to have 15 and present to different fashion weeks around the US. Um, so I'm in this process of having multiple pieces of the same collection. And I'm also receiving a few requests for people to do dresses for them. So now I'm working in 2 pieces. They're going to be dressed in a ball, which is really interesting. I want to definitely take a look and see how that is going to be. I'm going to have fittings this week, so I'm really excited about that. One thing that I like to work a lot doing those pieces, and it's still like now with those ones that I have, it's volume. I love working with volume and different ways to show volume. So for example, in that dress that I told you guys that I used 20 pounds of fabric, that was a challenge to make because um, it's a heavy dress and I didn't want it to have any straps on. So I did a corset inside, and there's a corset and a petticoat. And the petticoat, there's a lot of crinoline. Crinoline is something that I love using. It creates an amazing volume. Um, so the entire volume, it holds up to the chest and it creates like a bubble shape. So I worked with a lot of bubble shapes in different places. So for example, there's this dress when it's on the breast. There's also another one. There's a bubble shape around the waist, but I did it in a different way. Um, and I also used the same bubble shape at the chest, but in a different version of it, also using crinoline. Um, but that time I didn't use a petticoat, but it was a different structure. So back to Drexel, I did a independent study in um, advanced pattern making. So I took a few books that I was interested and like a really crazy patterns, and I discovered one really interested and feel that I needed to work in my collection. So a lot of the bubble shapes that you're gonna see, I developed on that independent study, and it was interesting. And again, like to have this line of collection, the connection with the volumes and the collection itself. Now I'm doing this black dress here. It has almost the same shape as this blue one. The structure is slightly different. I wanted to have even more volume in the bottom. I don't know if you guys can see, but it looks like a fan. So she's pretty movable. I still need to put to hand sew the um, hair, horse hair here. She's in process. The top, it's almost the same, but it's not the same. I did a diamond shape with a few pleats on. It's also, this fabric here is also silk, but it's a different one. It's like, it's slightly sheer. And again, I use a tie silk fabric. This one, it's not as shiny as the first one, but I wanted to have more impact on the breast. So the breast is more shiny and it's sheer. So there's a funny fact. I have those two machines here. One is a heavy duty Singer one, and the other one is a serger machine. Even though I have a serger machine, I hate using serger machine. So all of the finishes I do without it. I just have the serger machine if I have to do something really fast. But if I don't need to do it fast, the finishes I basically do all by hand. It's kind of weird, especially if you're using silk, having the serge. Serge works better with like heavy, not like works better, but it's weird when you're trying to use silk. It doesn't work well with it. So I always prefer to do my finishes by hand. There's a few types. There's like the Hong Kong one that you kind of do a tape around the finishes. One that I also like to do, it's fold over and stitch in the end, so you kind of don't see it, and you don't need to use a serge machine. So another piece that I want to talk about is that top. It looks like a clown, but it's a top. So again, back to the bubble shape and back to the structure that I created and the volume. I did that piece. It's a top. So the arms go over here and goes off shoulder. So it's kind of like the top, volume, and the shoulders off. It's interesting, like to create that structure, and I use plastic crinoline. It's really interesting. It's like movable, and it still holds the shape. I was worried when I created that because a lot of advice that I got was to do with wire. But working with wire, it's complex, and also it can pierce the fabric and also pierce the person that it's using. So that was something that I didn't want it to happen. And when I discovered that fabric was amazing. And this specifically, I hand dyed first the silk using shibori techniques. It's a Japanese technique for dyes, and then did first the dye in the fabric and then cut it in order to have that aspect. Chip, chip, chip. Thank you very much for listening, and see you guys at the studio. My first model is wearing a bra completely made by hand. There's a pearls, there is organza, and it's completely attached by hand. And the second piece that she is wearing is a high waist skirt, all made in silk. The shimmery color, it's in organza, and I was playing a lot with 3D effect with pattern making. So there's a lot of pieces that put it together work as a bubble. For my second piece, we still have the same idea of having 3D effects with pattern making. So in this mini dress, we have more than 300 pieces put it together, all made in silk. So we have black double silk in the exterior and turquoise green on the inside. For my third look, I wanted to embrace the mermaidian silhouette. So I create that mermaidian skirt with tie silk. This one is really shiny. It looks like it's water. And we have a lot of volume in the bottom made with tulle. For my next piece, I was enjoying working with the mermaidian silhouettes. So I made another dress in black. The structure is a little bit different. In the bottom, we have a circular shape, which gives a little bit more of volume. And it's also made in silk. It's double black silk tulle. And on the top, we have this sheery, different silk. I was also working a lot with pleats. So I wanted to just explore different ways to work with drapes. For my next look, I started to play with the bubble shape. So at first we had at the skirt and then in the bag, and then I wanted to make a top. So I brought this bubble shape into a top and did this drapey skirt giving a water goddess. From the darkness, of course. For my next piece, we still have the same bubble, but in a different setting. So instead of having just first the silk and cutting, I dyed the silk in a shibari technique. It's a very specific Japanese technique in order to get this look. So I first dyed the fabric. It's also silk, made the top. And this skirt, I just wanted to embrace the same mermaidian look with 3D pattern making, creating those weights. For my next look, I wanted to have the same waviness of the other ones, but at the time I used a lace. It was gorgeous, and I was like, okay, let's do a high waist skirt. The top also have the same pearls as the first one, but at this time I wanted to have more ruffles, more waves on it, so I embraced that in the same bra. For my next piece, I wanted to bring the shibari technique in a more dramatic way, so I have this huge skirt. It took me 8 yards of silk to make it in order to have this really embodied water look. And for the small uh, dress, I had used the same technique as on the other skirt, having the waves as patterns. Do you want me to talk about it? And for my final look, I wanted to have a more dramatic, even look using the same technique as I used for the skirt, but on that time for a dress. So now we have 20 yards of fabric, and I definitely wanted to create a challenge for myself. And I don't have any stripes, anything holding in the shoulders. All the structure is inside of the dress. Thank you very much for watching. That was my brand, Tiago Segunda. Follow me on Instagram. And this was Behind of the Collection, Philadelphia.